So Jagex today announced the first relic for Trailblazer League Reloaded, Trickster. And I wanted to spend some time just talking about the various pros and cons of this relic, as this is something that you will have a choice of at some point during your league's adventure. Now, Trickster is a skilling relic that changes the thieving, agility, hunter, and fire making skill up quite a bit if you take it. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over each of those different skills and how they change. Now, if you notice, this relic has a lot of different bullet points. There's a lot of information to unpack here. So we're going to break it down kind of skill by skill. So we're going to start with thieving. Thieving has 3 different bullet points here. The first is that you will automatically re-pickpocket your target. Now, the thing that's really cool about this makes thieving way more AFK. If you find a man in Lumbridge and you click it once after you take this relic, you will pickpocket indefinitely until your pouch limit gets reached, and you can no longer pickpocket him without clicking one more time to empty your pouches. Then you can click back on him and AFK again. So it ends up making pickpocketing very similar to like a fishing or a woodcutting activity, which is really, really cool. The other thing with this is it makes it to where you follow around your target. So even if that man moves around, your character will automatically follow him around and make sure to keep pickpocketing. The second thing is that your loot from pickpocketing is doubled, and then it becomes noted. So the first portion of this makes you basically have a rogue's outfit no matter what. And if you also have a rogue's outfit, I'm pretty sure you'll get 4 times the loot. It'll be multiplicative, which is really, really cool. Now, the lighter part of that it's noted, means that if they're giving you something that isn't coins, such as Czars, which everybody has access to, you are able to get those gems noted automatically. Now, this is really, really cool with things like Czars, where if you get your ice gloves and you click this once, you actually can basically 6-hour log AFK pickpocket these Czars, because their drop table is only like 10 items. And all of those are just going to keep being noted over and over and over and over again, which is really, really, really cool. The last thing is that coin pouches, their limit is increased by 3. So if you're pickpocketing men, your limit is normally 28. You get a 3x multiplier on that, so you'll be able to pickpocket 3 times longer, especially with that AFK method, which means you have longer AFKs, you don't have to click as much. It's really, really nice quality of life. Now, the things where this gets really, really good is things like Czars, like I mentioned, but also if you happen to take Kandarin, this relic gets really busted, because there's kind of one extra aspect of this that I'm going to highlight here, which at the very, very bottom, you cannot fail actions for thieving, agility, hunter, and fire making. Now, this applies to all 3 of them, so I'm going to reference this kind of a handful of times. But the thing that's really, really cool about this is as soon as you get the level to pickpocket something, you have a 100% success rate. So if you take something like Kandarin, which you get master farmers at low levels, so you can start pickpocketing master farmers without failing immediately. You get your RD Knights at 55. But what becomes really, really good is things like heroes. Now, you might not have ever pickpocketed a hero ever, besides the diary. But the thing that's really good about them is normally their success rate is really, really bad. Even with 99 thieving, I'm pretty sure you don't have a 100% success rate with them. So it's not worth pickpocketing them in the main game. But at level 80, even though it normally has like a 30 or 40% success rate, it's now 100. And the XP that you get for pickpocketing it once is a lot. At 3,000 pickpockets an hour, which is like tick perfect, you never messing up the emptying your coin pouches, that type of thing. We can get up to 3,000 pickpockets an hour on these. You are able to get somewhere around 800,000 XP an hour as your base XP. And then you get your XP multiplier on top of that. It's really reasonable that in the first day or 2, you could get over 6 million XP an hour pickpocketing heroes with this relic, which is actually insane. We expect that there's going to be some like 25 or 50 million XP like master tasks in the general category that will get you a lot of points towards unlocking your next relic tiers. And this might be a really fast way of speeding that up if you take this relic, which is really, really cool. The next thing on the list that we're going to look at is agility. So agility only has 1 bullet point here. And basically you get an item called the Sage's Greaves, which are an equipable boot slot item that you equip. And basically as you just run around the game, you just get passive agility XP. Now, I know you're thinking, oh my god, I don't have to train agility. This is great. I'll just run around the game, and by the end of the league, I'll have 99, and it'll be no big deal. 10 out of 10, never have to run over rooftop ever. My problem with this is there was so many tasks last league that required you to run X amount of laps. And you're going to get 99 agility, most likely, just from running those laps for those mandatory tasks anyway. So all this really does is lets you maybe sneak up to one of those, like really close to one of those 25 or 50 mil XP categories by the end of the league, in which case you do a little bit extra agility to kind of round that out to make sure you hit those. Moving on to Hunter, we have a couple of bullet points here. The first two kind of go hand in hand, which is box traps lure the creatures faster, and loot from box traps is doubled. So when you're catching chins, you catch chins a little bit faster. They don't wander around aimlessly quite as much. And then secondly, when you loot the chin, you get them doubled. Now, if you remember, we have that very bottom bullet point that says you can't fail, which means chins will never go into your trap and then leave and not actually stay in it. You will 100% catch it every time it tries to interact with your trap, which is really, really nice. The last bullet point is that impling jars can't break. This is pretty minor. There are going to be impling tasks. There will be tasks in Puro, and this will help with that, where you just don't have to keep getting jars. But overall, I think it's a pretty minor thing. It's just quality of life. I don't think it actually increases your XP per hour or really the resources you get per hour that drastically. So I think this point is pretty meh. But the other two can be really, really good depending on your regions. Lastly, we have fire making. So fire making lets you burn up to 9 logs simultaneously. Now, this just makes the skill way faster. If you get logs noted from other relics, from bossing, you just have a big backstock of redwoods or magic logs to burn. Being able to just basically make 3 fires and then rebank is really, really fast. I don't think you'll actually get 9 times the XP rate because you're going to be banking way more. It's probably going to be closer probably to like 5 or 6x the XP rate you would get doing logs if you already have them banked. Still really, really good, really, really powerful, especially if you don't take Zaya, so you don't have Wintertod. This being a way that you don't need to spend as much time actually going through the process of fire making is actually kind of nice. But it's such a fast skill anyways that I don't think it's that big of a deal. By the time you want to actually train fire making besides Zaya, you're just going to wait until you get the 16x multiplier anyway, and at which point you're only fire making for a handful of hours. So having that sped up even more just a little bit, I don't think is as big of a time save as something like the thieving or the hunter portions of this relic are. Overall, going back and actually just thinking about this as a whole, how good is this relic? Is this something you should be taking? I think overall this is probably like a 7 out of 10 relic. I expect that this is going to be a relic that you can get in the first or second tier of relics depending on where it falls. They didn't tell us that information, which means you're going to get it pretty early on in League, and this early is really, really good. As you get later in the game, this starts to fall off a little bit. It just becomes less relevant as you start getting levels and stuff. You have GP, you don't need to thieve or catch chins as much anymore, right? But in the early game, I think this is really, really strong, and depending on what it's paired up against, this may be a pretty solid pick to grab. But who knows? Only time will tell, and as soon as we get some more spoilers, we'll come back with you with another video going over those relics, and hopefully at some point we'll have all the tiers and stuff so we can actually compare them side by side and actually see what's the most beneficial relic to take. With that, we'll see you at the next spoiler. Reminder to subscribe so you don't miss tomorrow's episode.